The sun beat down harshly over the quiet countryside highway, illuminating a gas station that looked worn from years of dust, heat, and forgotten travelers. Yet this ordinary place witnessed an extraordinary moment the morning a luxury black SUV screeched into the lot. The back door flung open, and a trembling infant's cry pierced the stillness. Beside the car stood Mara Wellington, a wealthy socialite with perfectly styled hair and eyes overflowing with panic. She held a baby girl wrapped in a silk blanket, her manicured fingers shaking uncontrollably. In the corner, sweeping the station floor with worn gloves and calm patience, stood Alvin Green, a reserved black janitor whose quiet life was about to change forever. None of them knew that the decision Mara made in those frantic 30 seconds would alter all their destinies. And 5 years later, the moment they crossed paths again would leave Mara frozen as the truth exploded in front of her. If you believe in kindness, forgiveness, and second chances, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Tales right now. It truly supports us and helps these stories reach more hearts. As the SUV vanished into the highway, Alvin stood in stunned disbelief, staring at the baby she had left behind. He had seen shock, sorrow, and desperation in people's eyes before, but nothing like the icy, terrified look Mara carried. The baby, later named Soraya, was hardly 6 months old, shaking softly in his protective arms. Alvin was a solitary man living in a small rented room behind the gas station. He had no partner, no children, no luxuries, just a heart too big for the life he lived. Yet in that moment, something in him awakened, a sense of responsibility he couldn't ignore. He took Soraya home, feeding her, soothing her, and promising silently to give her a life better than the one she had been abandoned to. Days turned into months, and the tiny room behind the gas station transformed slowly into a home where laughter began to echo. Alvin worked long double shifts, often returning drenched in sweat and exhaustion, but always finding Soraya waiting with outstretched arms and a grin that melted his tiredness instantly. He bought second-hand books to teach her colors and shapes. He saved every spare coin for her clothes and milk. He skipped meals on tough weeks but never allowed her to go without. The townspeople slowly noticed how deeply he cared for her, though rumors swirled about who her real mother could have been. Alvin kept silent, refusing to shame someone he didn't know, believing life had enough cruelty already. Meanwhile, far away in the bustling upper-class district of Belmore Heights, Mara Wellington lived in a glass mansion shimmering with wealth but hollow inside. Born into money, groomed to maintain a flawless image, she had lived her entire life under rigid expectations. When a secret relationship spiraled into scandal and resulted in pregnancy, her influential family gave her one choice: get rid of the baby or be cut off forever. Fear strangled her, and she convinced herself she couldn't raise a child alone. But the moment she placed Soraya into a stranger's arms, something inside her broke. She hid her guilt behind designer dresses and charity galas, yet every night she cried in silence, wondering what life her daughter had now, and whether she had condemned her to misery. She told herself the pain would fade, but as the years passed, it only grew heavier, crushing her slowly from within. 5 years later, the morning sun glowed softly over the newly renovated gas station. Alvin had earned a small promotion, enough to rent a modest 2-room home nearby. Soraya, now a bright and bubbly 5-year-old, raced around the station greeting every truck driver and customer like they were family. People adored her kindness, her warm smile, and the way she clung to Alvin's pant leg whenever she felt shy. Alvin had transformed from an invisible worker to a pillar of quiet inspiration in the community. His bond with Soraya was unbreakable, a father and daughter not by blood, but by heart. On that fateful day, Mara Wellington's luxury sedan rolled into the station again, not because she remembered it, but because her car had overheated during a charity drive to a rural school. As she stepped out onto the sunny gravel, her sunglasses hid the weary sadness etched permanently into her expression. She wandered toward the station store, searching for a drink, when a little girl's giggle drifted through the warm breeze. Mara turned involuntarily, noticing a small child with curly hair, hazel-brown skin that glowed in the daylight, and bright, curious eyes that seemed to hold galaxies. The little girl tugged at the hand of a tall black man, who lifted her effortlessly as she clung to his shoulder. Something about the scene made Mara's legs tremble, a strange familiarity she couldn't decipher. As she watched the man carry the child toward the shade, Mara's heart hammered violently. A memory slammed into her, a silk blanket, a dusty morning, a cry she never forgot. Mara blinked hard, her breath catching. She whispered inside her mind, "No, it can't be." But the child's eyes, those eyes were her own. Her knees weakened as her reality cracked open. She stepped closer, her pulse thundering. Alvin noticed her staring but kept his distance, unaware of who she was. Mara felt words rise in her throat but vanish under the weight of guilt. Her past mistake towered over her, paralyzing her. She had spent 5 years trying to bury a moment she could never undo, and now she stood face to face with its consequences. As she watched Alvin gently wipe Soraya's cheek and hand her a juice box, tears stung Mara's eyes. She expected bitterness in his expression, maybe resentment, but instead she saw pure love, the kind of love she had denied her daughter. A crushing wave of regret swept through her, so heavy she nearly stumbled. She wanted to drop to her knees and beg forgiveness, but she didn't even know where to begin. She approached carefully, unsure whether she even deserved to stand near them, and Alvin sensed the trembling in her posture. Soraya, innocent and curious, smiled widely at the stranger and offered her juice box with cheerful generosity. Mara's heart shattered completely, realizing the child she abandoned had grown into someone so loving, so full of light, the opposite of the darkness she had lived with since that day. As the warm noon wind brushed over them, Mara gathered the courage to speak. She slowly explained everything, her fear, her family's pressure, the desperate moment she abandoned Soraya, and the years of agony she endured afterward. Alvin listened quietly, his expression calm yet touched by the weight of her confession. He had never hated the woman who left the baby behind, he only wondered whether she had been forced by circumstances he didn't understand. Mara begged him to tell her about Soraya's life, and he described everything, the struggles, the milestones, the laughter, the challenges, and how Soraya had transformed his lonely existence into a life full of meaning. His voice carried pride, not resentment, and it only deepened Mara's sense of unworthiness. Yet as she looked at Soraya, who held both their hands with pure innocence, Mara understood that the little girl's future mattered more than the past. Over the next hour, they sat beneath the shade of the station's tall billboard as Soraya played beside them. Mara wept quietly, not from guilt alone but from seeing how loved her daughter was. She realized that though she had lost years of motherhood, she was being offered something rare, a chance to rebuild, not erase, but reshape the future. Alvin assured her gently that Soraya had always deserved 2 people to love her, not one, and Mara felt hope flicker for the first time in years. Together, they agreed that Mara could become part of Soraya's life slowly, carefully, in a way that wouldn't confuse or hurt her. It wasn't forgiveness yet, it was the beginning of healing, a bridge built from honest repentance and genuine compassion. And under the bright daytime sky, with sunlight warming their faces, it felt like the world was giving all 3 of them a second chance.